that doesn't correlate directly with wind. So we do expect you're going to get hit by that doesn't correlate directly with wind. So we do expect you're going to get hit by that doesn't correlate directly with wind. So we do expect you're going to get that doesn't correlate directly with wind. So we do expect you're going to get hit by that doesn't correlate directly with wind. So we do expect you're going to get hit by that doesn't correlate directly with wind. So we do expect you're going to get
your family. People are watching us, they're messaging us, they're sending us Facebook messages, email messages. People are very scared. But when Dennis came in and he whispered to me, you know, just a little bit of hope. You know, you hold on to every single gleam of hope. And when Dennis said, this storm is not as strong as we expected, it's going to be bad, but this we can survive. And instantly I felt, you know what? It's going to be okay.
He may have been whispering to you, but I overheard it, and I needed to hear it as well.
So we want to hear back from Dennis again. Thank you, Dennis, for the hope we needed.
Yeah, Dia, and I think that's actually what a lot of folks are thinking about right now. I think they're going to come back to me. That's what we're talking about. But let's be very clear right now about what we're going through. We'll talk about current, okay? We still morning. We are still looking at the worst winds the Bay Area has seen overall in decades, okay? So let's not minimize the threat, but remember, there was the potential, especially warm water south of Florida. I mean, there was talk, and that was a conversation that I would have entertained as well, and did for that matter, that all that warm water down to our south could cause this to blow up to a 4 or maybe even a 5, you know, and maybe it could have come in from the southwest. That's the worst case scenario. A southwest to northeast moving storm getting stronger as it did so, like Charlie, of this size would be that big one, that worst case scenario that we have ever seen. So that is not going to happen. All right, so at least we are not at the very top of what we're going to deal with. But I do not want to minimize the threat at all in terms of what we are going to experience, which is the strongest hurricane overall, north to south, that we have dealt with in decades. But trust me, there is a big difference from a Category 2 storm or even a minimal 3 to a 4 or a 5. So, Shay, I think it's... Can you it up? All right, that's okay. Just pop it up from the beginning again. Sure. So, and as you see, we're going to be having conversations right on through the overnight. This is not the traditional news coverage, because what we're doing right now is we're just going along as you are. We're locked in. You're locked in. Nobody's leaving. The exception, as I said, if you're very close to a shelter and you just decided, I don't need this, I'm going to go in and hang with my friends and hang in a very nice, maybe not comfortable, granted, but at least safe building. But in terms of what we're looking at across the area now, all right, this is a map we just created, and we'll get Wendy and Jameson are coming in right now, so we'll talk with them in just a second. The official NHC track, Hurricane Center track, they always say don't look at the line. Well, it's hard not to look at the line. When you're afraid that that line is going to bring a big hurricane right over your house, of course you're going to look at the line. It's human nature. So as we continue to get live pictures when it's coming in from the south, what is coming up from the south will eventually move into our area. But what we're seeing right now, this is to the point where models are meaningless. Again, they really weren't that good either anyway for the last 4 or 5 days. But in terms of what we're looking at for the short term, they're meaningless. Now it is just tracking. And Irma has now been moving due north for the last 4 hours. That's not to say it's going to make a little bit of a wobble one way or another way. But right now, it's been moving due north, or maybe just like 10 degrees west of due north. But regardless, you get what I'm saying. So if that's the case, this will make landfall around Naples and start its track inland. The minute it does that, it will lose its energy source, the warm water. So it will slowly start to weaken. Now, if there were no other variables going along, it would take a while to do so. But in addition to land, it's also going to start being sheared. It's a term we talk about. It kind of cuts off the top of storms, pushes it along faster, very often causes a little bit quicker weakening. So what could have been, well, what was a Category 4 hurricane earlier today is now a 3, and conceivably could be down to a 2. We need it to drop 10 more miles an hour, Category 2. And I think by the time we get into the Tampa Bay area and areas to the north, that's what it will be. Hurricane Center will update their forecast coming up. The track will update at 5 o'clock. Now, I didn't even put that line on here because it's still pretty far west, and I think now at this point it really is all about looking at the area with the greatest wind potential. It's a 20-mile area, 40-mile diameter, 20 miles each way, east and west of the center. That's where the heaviest wind will be. Within that area, it is not just a giant, for lack of a better term, a giant tornado with everything in that having equal wind. The numbers that you're seeing on the screen of the 110 or 120 or whatever it is, those are little bitty pockets. They're usually not very widespread. A perfect example, as the planes are as recon's flying through, they find a little blip for 60 seconds or whatever it is, and they're like, okay, this is the area that has that wind. They go on the other quadrant, and it's 40 miles an hour weaker. They go in the southwest quadrant, and it's half that speed. So usually it's the northeast quadrant that is the strongest, and usually it's smaller areas within there. And my concern right now is as I watch this move north along this path, this gray area that Shay and I made, Shay made that. This is the path that shows a 40-mile diameter from where right now seeing the center of the storm going, okay? That's all it is. This isn't the Hurricane Center's path. This is us eyeballing it and saying, it's going north, it's been north 4, and we're taking the radar and extended it for you. So within this path, the eastern half of this would probably be where some of the heavier wind would be, but it will not be overall a uniform Cat 2, Cat 3, whatever it is. It will be pockets of that. So what that means and what I'm trying to stress to you is everybody is going to get hurricane force winds. If you have hopes that it's just not going to happen. You are going to have force winds, which are 75. I think 75 to 90 is a really good, solid number for our northern and central counties, with gusts maybe up to 105 at times in very small areas in some of those bands. Okay? Sarasota, Manatee, yours will be a little bit higher because it's not going to have an opportunity to quite as much by then. But our hope is that it continues to weaken. And once it makes landfall around Naples, I think it will. But it's going to take a while because she is such a big storm, big enough to blow the water out of Tampa Bay, even without the winds getting here yet. I mean, that's what's crazy about this. Think about this. We don't really have any of the wind at all yet, and yet the push was strong enough to get the bay pretty much dry, which is why you don't want to be anywhere near there when it comes around. When will it come around and come back in? Once the center of the storm passes that latitude. So right there, the winds go from northeast to southwest when the storm is there. When the storm is here, see what I'm saying? Once it passes that line east to west, the winds shift from the northeast to the south, and all the water that was pushed out is now pushed back in. That is going to happen. There's no way around it. That's when the surge is going to be an issue. The entire time, we're going to have torrential rains. We're going to have flooding. I was driving in with a band, and I saw a big billboard for an insurance. Need insurance, hurricane insurance, call them. It was ripped apart. And that was just a gust, 45 miles an hour. So this right now, what you're looking at coming through, and there will be additional tornado warnings, by the way, and those are usually really small, very short-lived, but they still have 90-mile-an-hour winds a lot of times and can do some damage. So we're still in that tornado watch for the entire area. But there is when it starts getting real. That's the outer bands, well, the mid-band, really. And that's going to be entering the Sarasota County region. It's already in DeSoto County, and it's already in Highlands County right now. Highlands and DeSoto, you're getting some nasty wind right now, and there's more on the way. I mean, we zoom in right here. There you can see it. Any of these bands, you could see the potential for a tornado from Lake Placid up towards Sebring, but it's still not the strongest. The strongest is still way down there. In fact, Shay, can you actually just zoom into that little area right in the eye? I mean, right where the center. Okay, right. Okay. You want to know where the heavy, I'll tell you where the damaging wind is right now. Right there. Can you stop it actually? Just now. Right there. There is your wind. There's your eye wall. West side, weaker. You can see it, right? Right now, that looks like it's pretty much making a beeline from Marco Island and up toward Naples. Now, at that point, if it continues north, it's lost its energy source. It's lost the warm water. So at that point, it will not strengthen anymore. And hopefully, it will start to weaken quicker, sooner than later. So look how small of an area that is. All right? It's clearly going to be terrible for Marco Island. There's going to be some major damage in Marco Island. Still a Cat 3, right? We're still looking at winds of 120? Yeah, I think it's 120 was the last I saw. So that's still a major hurricane, but it's not a 4, and it's not a 5 like it was earlier. So, and it won't be. If it's this close now, there could be, a brief period of time, if it stays and goes inland, like it looks like it's going to. I mean, if it does a jog to the left and doesn't want to go scoot along the coast, and there's a chance it could stay longer. But that's something we're just going to have to track. So you keep it here. Minute by minute, we will watch this. But as I said, right there is where the damaging wind is. And that's what? Maybe 10 miles? So when we're watching this tonight, or listening tonight, because a lot of folks are going to be without power. So again, guys, in fact, if we can, it's on the bottom of the screen as well. We've got radio stations, 5 radio stations that we're simulcasting on right now, and we'll do it all night long. So when you lose power, and it's not if, it's when you lose power, these are the 5 radio stations that you can turn to and hear us. And we've already been talking about how we do what we do. We'll have to change. Instead of saying, hey, look at the red area, hey, look at this, you'll be listening. So we'll try to be far more descriptive and use more geographical locations as opposed to, obviously, just saying, look at this red area here. So that's something that's going to happen for us this evening when you lose power. We're already, looks as though within an hour, if it does continue north, this is going to make landfall around Marco Island and just east of Naples. And you want to know the irony of that? Today's the 57th anniversary of Irma, which was the last major storm to come in like that and hit as a Category 4, and that's exactly where Irma is hit. The path is a little different, but coming up from this way, it's almost identical. So go figure. So anyway, there it is. As it goes up, it will start to weaken. Those strong winds will start to shrink and break up, and then you'll have even more pockets of gusty winds. Very, very heavy winds, damaging winds. Boy, great shot there. Where's that from? There's from Miami. And I'll tell you, just another great example. This storm is on the west coast of Florida. Look at Miami right now. Have you been seeing Miami for the last couple hours? And they're crushed by bands. They are nowhere near the center of the storm, the strongest winds. But they're easily looking at 80, 90 mile an hour winds right there, maybe even 100. So those are bands that, unfortunately, we're going to be. Now, those are probably some gusts of 90, maybe sustain more 75 to 80. But you see what I'm saying here? That is certainly something that we're bottom line. So how does this impact us tonight? There will be trees down all over the place. There will be power outages for days. There will be incredible amount of blue tarps on roofs across our entire viewing area over the next few weeks, and there's no way around that. That's going to happen. But you know what? We had that back in 04 with Francis and Jean. We've had that with tropical storms. We can make it through that. When you start talking about a 4 or a 5, and there's an expression I talk about, rule number 7, don't freak out. You see a 4 or 5, that's worth freaking out. You see a 1 or a 2, or maybe even a minimal 3. Minimal 3 is a major hurricane. You never, ever want to minimize it, or a 2 for that matter, because unfortunately, if there's people who stay in mobile homes and they don't evacuate and they're in that little area right there, they may not make it. And I'm talking to a lot of folks in our viewing area east of I-75 if they're in that path of the storm. So that's why you still have time to get to a shelter if there's one that's still open. And I'm not advocating go out in nasty weather, but trust me, a 40 mile an hour wind gust is nothing compared to 110 or 120 mile an hour wind gust across the area. Shay, I believe, what is this, the north to south arrow? That what that is? That's fine. Oh, okay. No, it's okay. But regardless, due north is the motion. So the Hurricane Center releases a new fix, and they'll tell us if it's changed at all. All right? We do have, some of our reporters are out in the field. Obviously, things aren't nearly as bad in the Bay Area directly, but there's still some spots that are picking it up. And who do we have in St. Pete? Simon, I couldn't understand. But Simon is in St. Pete right now.
Hi there.
Hey, how you doing, Simon? It looks like things are still okay across Pinellas County, but are you near the water? Well, clearly you are. So are you seeing the water start to come up quite a bit now, or it's still okay?
Hi there, Dennis. We are seeing waves crashing up against the beach. We are in Vinoy Park. Let's walk over here and show you exactly what it looks like. Pretty significant waves, actually, just crashing against the bay here. And we see a couple of folks out here taking some pictures, kind of checking out the scenery. But for the most part, it's cleared out. This is an area that is typically filled with people. And this is what we've been talking about, those intense winds and what we will begin to feel tropical storm conditions. And that's prior to Hurricane Irma arriving in this area, just a few short hours from those anticipated winds of more than 100 miles an hour lasting through tomorrow morning. We do see a police presence out here. Important to point out, they are also going to be clearing out before too long, meaning that anyone who's out and about, as we've been told, will essentially be on their own. Keep in mind, a storm surge would also bring dangerously high waves up onto shore. Particular concern to people who are living nearby. There are some beautiful homes here in this area. And bottom line, you want to make sure you're in a safe place, an evacuation shelter, that is not in a mandatory evacuation zone. And again, let me just tell you, we can really feel those strong winds out here. You hear and see those waves crashing, and the rain's kind of hitting you from all directions. Even over here, let me show you this part of these trees. Some of the nature here just brought down by these winds. Not significant, but we're going to see a heck of a lot more of that. And not too many people out here. I can the amount of people out here, typically this area would be filled. For now, live in St. Petersburg, Simon Shaquette, ABC Action News.
Got it. Simon Shaquette. Thanks, Simon. Appreciate it. Now, in terms of what Simon's looking at, remember, the wind is still blowing out where he is. So that is still, you're not talking about, there will be a surge issue until the center of Irma has passed that location. So whether it's the Hillsborough Bay, whatever water area you're talking about, Tampa Bay itself, the winds will continue to, you can see, there's your counterclockwise flow, right? And look at the way everything's pushing. It's pushing water out of the bay and into the Gulf. But look down south of the eye. Look what's happening there. It's all going inland. By the way, there's that band right there. Looks kind of benign. Doesn't look all that heavy, right? That's the one that was, all that video we just showed you a second ago in Miami, how they were getting hammered. And I guarantee you it's a heck of a lot rougher island. So I'm going to toss it over back to Jameson and Wendy in a second, but I want to remind everybody, we're going to be here all night, okay? That 20 to 40 mile area that we're going to be tracking continuously is the key to everything now. There's no false hopes that we're not going to get a hurricane here. It's going to happen. Our hope right now is it's going to be a 2 as opposed to a 4, because trust me on this, that is a massive difference in terms of damage. We've got a lot of cleaning up to do either way, but you get a 4, you start talking about structural damage. You get a 2, you get trees on homes, you have roofs damaged, but you normally don't see those looks of the 4s and the 5s that the devastation can bring. So we'll look at some new numbers, new recon coming in, see if that north trend or if there's a change, because if there is, that's obviously going to make a world of a difference of who gets that strongest wind right around the center of the storm. Guys?
All right, thank you, Dennis. The roller coaster, I guess, is at the top of the hill, and we cannot get off at this point, folks. And we are just coming in for Wendy Ryan. I'm Jameson Euler. We got a few hours of sleep.
Yes, we did. We're giving Dia and James a chance to get some rest, but our continuous coverage continues now. Yeah. And we want to check in now with Matt Smith. He is live in Tampa for us. Matt, I know you're live outside of a Hilton hotel. What are the conditions where you are?
Right now, actually, we're just dealing with the intermittent gusts. You can actually see that happening right now. The trees off here in the distance, kind of swaying, kind of breezing. Not the stuff that you're seeing out there actually on the ocean right now. A little bit different than that coastal feel that we've been seeing throughout the day. We just checked in with Simon a little bit ago. But actually, one of the things that we're noticing here is a lot of people are congregating right here at the front of the hotel. A big part of this, these people are local. A lot of them have actually come in here because they didn't want to go to the shelters, or in some cases, they just realized they want to be with friends and family. They couldn't get in together. I'm actually walking over here to Ashley. She's one of the people, one of the locals that got in here. Ashley, tell me, I mean, you're here with your friends. What made you make the decision to be here?
We couldn't get out. There was a lack of gas in the region. We went to about 8 separate gas stations, and we're feeling safe. Everyone's here and in good spirits, and just God bless everyone. We're just praying for everyone out there and making it out alive. We'll be good. Everything's going to be good. Everyone's in awesome spirits here, and we're all sticking together. So that's what it's about, unity in numbers. So
I know you said you saw a National Guardsman actually inside the building. What did that make you feel like when you saw that?
Safe. They're all here, so they're all evacuating to here. I'm feeling pretty good about that. So we're doing good. They're taking awesome care of us at the Hilton, so it's going good. All
right, Ashley, appreciate you taking the time. You stay safe with your friends. We all know that just a little bit ago we were outside and we were talking with the mayor of Tampa, and we were discussing with him just a little bit about safety protocols and what things are going to be going. He wanted to make sure everybody knows that curfew is going to be enacted at 6 o'clock, and you see why. Ways off, but already we're seeing the rain get a little bit heavier, more gusts. Actually going to take you inside of the Operations Center for Emergency Control. Take a listen.
Do you have a name of the shelter already?
It's hard to even differentiate the volunteers' voices inside the Emergency Operations Center. One floor down.
It's a lot of fear.
Robin Baker is preparing. Her husband works inside this building, and she, like many other families, are preparing for the worst. Shelter inside.
I will be sleeping probably where you are standing.
Mayor Bob Buckhorn admitted to us that he's in place for the long night ahead. Flanked by his police chief and fire crews, he did not mince words, digging deep to find an accurate description of what's in store.
Never thought I'd be quoting Mike Tyson. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And well, we're about to get punched in the face. And so it's incumbent upon us to react and to change that plan if necessary, to roll with whatever is we are confronted with, and to come out of this in good shape.
The mayor said earlier that, we got lucky for 90 years, and it sounds like our number finally came up. I mean, when you hear that, how do you react?
Well, it's terrifying. It's really afraid, especially in Florida. If you didn't evacuate early, to go. It takes forever to get out of here. So you might as well just find somewhere to go.
Which is exactly what we just heard from Ashley a moment ago. They couldn't get gas. They wanted to evacuate. They didn't have a chance. A lot of the people actually in this hotel, one of the more interesting stories I found was some of them just got to the situation where they had to come here. They didn't have a choice to be anywhere else. They went to a couple shelters, and they finally just said, you know what, I'm not going to be willing to go through place to place to place. That's why we have all that information over our website, Action News. But we do recommend that if you're making that...
But you can't get service right now. Power down all over the place. There's definitely hazards for first responders, so the whole region is deserted right now. No one on the boat.
Of Hollywood, Florida. In many ways, your work is just going to begin, because once this storm ends, the recovery begins, and people will come out of their houses and they'll have a whole lot of work to do. So stay strong, Mayor. Thanks so much for being with us. All right, we're here in Miami. Obviously, as you can see, still ferocious winds in Miami. That's the way it's been on the east coast of Florida for several hours now. Hurricane Irma has made the turn. It is moving up the west coast. Concern of storm surge, 10 to 15 feet of Naples. CNN coverage of Hurricane Irma continues after a quick break.
You might know me.
Phil was saying, even though that we are on the tail end of this storm, these are some of the strongest winds that I felt in the last 2 days of covering this. So perhaps before Irma leaves,
casting with us so that we can get the important information out there to as many people.
From the news channel, it's becoming more and more important as we're getting more and more reports of neighborhoods losing. Let's look at Charlotte Harbor right now. We have some new pictures in from Charlotte Harbor. Of course, wow, look at how low the water is in Charlotte Harbor right now. And these folks, of course, for Hurricane Charlie. So we'll be watching very, very closely to see what happens if water comes back in later on tonight and into the morning.
And let's look at Punta Gorda right now. John Joyner sent us this video from 12:45 today. They were just looking at wind at the time, but there's a canal right there, too, that looks a little... because you can judge it by the seawall there. And the neighborhood looks fine, windy, the canal looks okay, no damage. But this again, 12:45 this afternoon.
Let's head to Arcadia now. We have another set of video. Time stamp, very nice. A lot of wind in Arcadia, but again, a couple hours ago now, so I would imagine it's picked up quite a bit since this was shot and sent into us. But you can really see the trees moving there.
Let's go to Little Hickory Bay in Bonita Springs. This taken from a high-rise building or a multi-story building. And you can see the palm trees, of course, blowing strong. And you can see the water there as we're coming around. He's panning around. Video we're looking at right now. You can see the waterway at Hickory Bay, and you can see a lot of the boats out of the water there, and a lot of heavy rain coming down and the sheets of wind blowing the water, even the surface of the water being blown by the heavy wind gusts.
See if we can play this one. Okay, play it again from the beginning here, because one of the big things for folks area right there, water on that side, come around the street, come around the building, water on that side. So but these folks really have very, very little space between the water that's on both sides. So the surge event will be something very important to watch for them.
This is Hampton Park that we're going to be looking at next. I believe this is this in Gateway? Or this is in Lehigh Acres, Hampton Park in Lehigh Acres. They're looking at this from inside their house through the hurricane glass, and that's important to emphasize because we don't want anyone taking any risks. Do not go outside to get pictures for us. If you can do it safely from through hurricane glass, that's great. And we're looking at a lot of wind in this area as well. He's panning around to show us the neighborhood. We don't see any damage here. We just see a lot of heavy wind, rain, some very cloud-covered skies, dark skies. They say that they had about 6.5 inches of rain since yesterday, based on their personal rain gauge.